I overheard my stepmother and stepsister plotting to cut me out of my father's inheritance. So I moved out and spent a whole year surviving on my own. Now my father knows the truth, and everything has changed. I'm 23 years old, and for the past 5 years, I lived with my father, my stepmother, and my stepsister. My mom died when I was 16, and about a year later, my dad remarried. It all happened quickly, and soon I had a new stepmother, Dan, and a stepsister, Megan, who was 2 years younger than me. At first, everything was fine. Not perfect, but manageable. Dawn tried to act like a caring mother, but it always felt fake. Megan was polite but distant. I attributed it to the awkwardness of our family situation and hoped things would improve with time. After my mom died, my father buried himself in work, and that didn't change when his new wife came into the picture. He's a successful businessman, always traveling for business or working late. As a result, I spent a lot of time with Dan and Megan, and at first, I was okay with that. When my dad was home, we'd have dinner together, and everything seemed normal on the surface. I enrolled in college and would come home on weekends and holidays. After graduating, I moved back home while searching for a job in my field. That's when everything started to change. Dan became less friendly and constantly reminded me that someone my age should be living independently. Megan, who had also just finished school, returned home, and suddenly the house felt cramped. There was a strange tension in the air that I couldn't quite explain. At the time, I'd already been job hunting for a few months, sending out resumes, going to interviews. The job market was rough, but I was doing my best. My father supported me and told me not to rush, to wait for the right opportunity. Dawn, on the other hand, kept pushing me to move out. Last week, I overheard a conversation that turned my world upside down. I was in my room with the door closed when I heard Dan and Megan talking in the hallway. They must have thought I wasn't home because they didn't bother lowering their voices. Dawn said they needed to get rid of me before the will was finalized, and Megan agreed, adding that they couldn't risk letting me get an equal share. It wasn't hard to figure out they were talking about me. I sat there, horrified, listening as they discussed different ways to convince my father to kick me out. Dawn suggested cutting off my access to the family car so I couldn't get to interviews. Megan offered to accidentally break my laptop so I couldn't send out applications. The conversation felt endless, though in reality, it probably lasted only 10 minutes. They talked about how much money they'd get if I were out of the picture, what trips they could take, what things they could buy, all while mapping out ways to ruin my life. When they finally walked away from my door, I felt physically sick. These people, who I'd considered family, had lived under the same roof with me for years, and now they were conspiring against me like I was nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. The next few days were a blur. I tried to act normal, but it was hard. Every interaction with Dawn and Megan now felt fake. Sometimes I caught them looking at me with this calculating expression. It gave me chills. I thought about telling my father everything, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. He seemed happy with Dan, and I didn't want to destroy that illusion. Besides, I had no proof. It would be my word against theirs, and I wasn't sure whose side he would take. So I decided to stay calm and start preparing to move out. I messaged some friends to see if anyone was looking for a roommate and intensified my job search. I was willing to take anything at that point, even jobs I used to consider beneath me. I just wanted out of that house as fast as possible. A week after that conversation, I finally got lucky. A friend of a friend was looking to sublet his apartment for 6 months while studying abroad. The rent was high, but I had some savings and figured I could manage, so I agreed right away. When I told my dad I was moving out, he seemed surprised, but supportive. Dawn and Megan, though, could barely hide their excitement. They even made a show of helping me pack, constantly exchanging smug glances, thinking I couldn't see them. On the day I moved out, I overheard them talking again. This time, they were discussing how to make sure Dad didn't change the will now that I was gone. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just about kicking me out of the house. They wanted to cut me out completely. I've been living in my new place for a month now. The apartment is small, the neighborhood isn't great, but it's mine. I'm still looking for a full-time job and taking whatever gigs I can find to make ends meet. It's not perfect, but it's better than living with people who see me only as a threat to their inheritance. Dad calls me every few days, asking how I'm doing. He's noticed I don't come around anymore, and I can tell he's worried. I make excuses, say, I'm busy job hunting or settling into my new place. I just can't bring myself to tell him the truth yet. I even considered hiring a lawyer to see if I could protect my share of the inheritance, but I realized it's not about the money. What really hurts is knowing the people I considered family only saw me as something standing in their way. Sometimes, late at night, I think about how disappointed my mom would be. that I'm not fighting for what's rightfully mine. But then I remember what she used to say, that family is about love, not blood or legal documents. And by that logic, Dan and Megan were never really my family. I don't know what the future holds. Part of me wants to expose them, to tell my father everything. Another part just wants to move on and never look back. For now, I'm focusing on my life, one that doesn't depend on anyone's goodwill or inheritance. Last week, I finally found a job. It's entry level, and the pay is low, but it's something. I haven't told my dad yet. I don't want Don and Megan knowing anything about my life. The less they know, the less power they have to hurt me. I started seeing a therapist, the cheapest one I could find. Slowly, but surely, he's helping me deal with the anger and betrayal. He suggested I write letters to Dan and Megan, not to send them, but to release the emotions. I filled several notebooks with things I wish I could say to them. Sometimes I dream about my mom. In those dreams, she's always smiling, telling me she's proud of me. I wake up with a strange mix of comfort and sadness. I miss her more than ever. I miss her guidance, especially now when everything feels so chaotic. I've been thinking about reaching out to my mother's side of the family. We lost contact after she died, mostly because it was too painful for all of us. But now I feel like I need that connection. Maybe it's time to rebuild what was lost. As time went on, my life settled into a routine. Work, home, work again. It's not very exciting, but at least it's stable. I've been slowly building a life that doesn't include Dawn, Megan, or conversations about inheritance. My father's birthday is coming up, and I'm not sure if I should go to the family dinner. On one hand, I want to see him and wish him well. On the other, the thought of sitting at the same table with Dawn and Megan, pretending everything is fine, makes me sick. I've started volunteering at a local youth center on weekends. Many of the kids there come from troubled homes or have lost their parents. Now I understand them in a way I never did before. Volunteering helps me. In some ways, it heals me. Because by helping these kids deal with their pain and anger, I'm learning to process my own. Sometimes I wonder what Dan and Megan tell people about my sudden departure. Do they paint me as the ungrateful son who abandoned his family? Or do they pretend I never existed? I try not to dwell on it, but the thoughts creep in from time to time. I've made some new friends, at work and through volunteering. It feels good to be around people who see me for who I am, not as someone to be manipulated for personal gain. These relationships feel more real than anything I ever had with Dan and Megan. The other day, I ran into Megan at a store. It was awkward, to say the least. She was overly friendly, asking about my job and apartment. I kept my answers vague and left as soon as I could. After that encounter, I felt unsettled for days. I started thinking more seriously about the future. Should I stay in this city, where I might run into Dan and Megan at any moment? Or should I move somewhere new and start fresh, where no one knows my story? It's a tempting thought, but I'm not sure I'm ready to leave my dad behind. Also, my lease is ending soon, and I need to decide whether to renew it or find something better. The idea of moving again exhausts me, but the thought of living in this tiny apartment forever isn't much better. It's just another reminder of how much my life has changed in such a short time. Recently, I tried dating again. Nothing serious, just a few casual dates. It was nice, but also hard. I'm scared to open up. I worry that I'll be betrayed or hurt again. My therapist says that's normal, that trust takes time to rebuild. Work is going well. I was recently promoted, and now I'm doing a little better financially. I no longer have to dip into my savings every month just to make rent. It's a small victory, but it means a lot to me. I still haven't told my dad about the conversation I overheard. Every time I'm about to bring it up, I stop myself. What if he doesn't believe me? What if it ruins our relationship? What if he does believe me but still chooses to stay with Dawn? I don't know if I could handle that kind of betrayal. Sometimes I even find myself angry at my mom for dying and leaving me in this situation. I know it's irrational, but the feeling won't go away. If she were still alive, none of this would have happened. I would still have a home, a family, a sense of belonging. I try to push those thoughts away, but they keep coming back. I've taken up cooking. I never needed to before, but now it's become a necessity. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm trying. There's something comforting about making food from scratch, taking care of myself in such a basic but important way. The holidays are coming up, and with them another hard decision: go home for Christmas and fake smiles at the dinner table, or stay home and spend it alone. Just the idea of forced cheerfulness makes my stomach turn. But the thought of spending the holiday in silence doesn't feel much better either. Lately, I've had trouble sleeping. At night, I lie awake, replaying that conversation over and over in my head. I analyze every interaction I've ever had with Dan and Megan, trying to see if there were warning signs I missed. It's exhausting, but I can't turn my brain off. I've thought about confronting them directly, telling them I know everything, that I heard them. But what would it change? They'd probably deny it or twist things around to make it seem like I'm the problem. And if it reached my dad, it might only make things worse. Some days I feel okay, I go to work, I come home, I function. Other days, the weight of what happened crushes me. It's hard to get out of bed, hard to exist in a world where people who were supposed to be family saw me only as an obstacle. I've started keeping a journal, writing down my thoughts and feelings. It helps a little. Maybe one day I'll look back and see how far I've come. For now, it's just a way to survive this chapter of my life. 6 months after moving out, I still find myself looking back. I'm not the same person I was on the day I overheard that conversation. In some ways, I'm stronger. In others, more vulnerable. But I'm learning to stand on my own, to build a life that doesn't depend on someone else's generosity or inheritance. I don't know what lies ahead. Will I ever confront Dawn and Megan? Will I tell my dad the truth? Will I get over this betrayal and learn to trust again? I don't have those answers yet. But I'm trying to live in the present, building a life that belongs only to me. It's not easy. It's not the life I envisioned. But it's mine, and that's enough for now. Update 1. It's been a year since I left my father's house, after overhearing my stepmother and stepsister plotting to get rid of me. A lot has changed since then, not all for the better. Sorry it took so long to post this update. Life has been unbelievably busy, and for a long time, I just didn't have the emotional strength to sit down and write. I've been working a lot and still seeing my therapist, so updating the post wasn't a priority. But I know many of you have been asking how I'm doing, so I finally pushed myself to write this. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice, support, and kind words meant more to me than you know, especially during those first few months when I felt completely alone. I read every comment, even if I couldn't reply. Your kindness was a bright spot during a dark time, and I'm so grateful. Update 2. Last week, Megan tried to add me on social media. I ignored the request, but it still threw me off. Is she trying to spy on me? Or is it just another attempt to pretend we're still some happy family? Either way, I want nothing to do with her. Lately, I've been thinking more about the future. Before all of this, I had vague plans. Maybe go to grad school, build a career. Now, I'm just trying to stay afloat. I don't know if I'll ever be able to think about the future with hope instead of anxiety. My lease ends next week. After a lot of thought, I decided to move to a slightly better apartment in a different part of the city. It's a small step, but for me, it's a big one. I want to keep moving forward, not stay stuck in the same place. The other night, I had dinner with Alex from the youth center. He's heading off to college soon and wanted to thank me for the support I gave him this past year. Seeing him thrive, despite his pain, gave me hope. Maybe I can do the same. While packing for my move, I couldn't help but reflect on everything. A year ago, I walked out of my father's house with one suitcase and a shattered heart. Now I have a job, an apartment, friends. It's not much, but it's mine. And I'm proud of what I've built, even if the pain and uncertainty still linger. I'm still waiting to hear from my dad. He promised to look into everything, but so far, there's been silence. It's hard not to spiral, but I'm trying to be patient. Whatever happens, I'm ready. I've become stronger over this past year. I survived betrayal, loneliness, uncertainty. I can survive whatever comes next. For now, I'm focusing on settling into my new place, making it feel like a real home, and continuing to build a life that belongs to me, no matter what happens with my father, Dan, or Megan. Final update. It's been about 3 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. I'm not sure where to begin, so I'll get straight to the point. My father finally made a decision after our talk, the one where I told him everything I overheard. He spent several weeks investigating. He hired a private investigator, checked his financial accounts, and even set up some kind of operation he wouldn't share the details of. In the end, he found enough evidence to confirm everything I had said, and more than I ever imagined. Turns out, Don and Megan had been siphoning money from his accounts for years. They made small transfers, amounts too insignificant to raise suspicion, but over time, it added up to a large sum. On top of that, they were manipulating him emotionally to get him to change his will. When he confronted them with the evidence, everything blew up. At first, Dawn denied everything. Then she tried to blame Megan. But Megan broke down and confessed, throwing Dawn under the bus in the process. It was a complete disaster. My dad filed for divorce and pressed charges for financial fraud. Don and Megan moved out, and, as far as I know, are now living with Don's sister in another state. I have mixed feelings about all of it. On the one hand, I feel relieved. Everything I feared, everything I heard that night, turned out to be true. On the other hand, it hurts to watch my father go through so much pain. He loved Don, or at least thought he did. It was a brutal realization for him. We've been talking more often. He's apologized countless times for not seeing what was happening, for not believing me sooner. I've forgiven him. But our relationship is still tense. We're working on it. We have dinner together once a week now. It's awkward sometimes, but it feels like the beginning of something new. As for me, I moved into a new apartment. I needed the fresh start. This place has nothing to do with Don or Megan. I've been decorating it, making it feel like home. Work is going better too. The layoffs I was worried about never happened. And recently, I even got a small raise. It's not much, but I'm no longer living paycheck to paycheck. I've even started saving a little. It's not a lot, but it's progress. Therapy continues. My therapist says I've made real progress, even if I don't always see it. The anger and sense of betrayal are still there, but they don't control me the way they used to. I'm learning to live with what happened without letting it define me. I've grown closer to my mom's side of the family. Aunt Sarah has become like a second mother to me. She's always there with advice, or just to listen when I need to talk. I spend more time with her now, and I'm reconnecting with my cousins. It feels good to belong somewhere again, even if it's not the family I grew up with. Dating is still hard. I've been on a few dates, but nothing serious. It's still difficult to trust, to open up. My therapist says that's okay, that it takes time. I'm trying to be patient with myself. Surprisingly, I've started writing. At first, it was just journaling. But now I'm thinking about turning my experience into a book. Maybe a memoir, maybe fiction. I'm not sure yet. But writing has become a way to process everything. It's helped me heal more than I expected. Last week, my dad and I talked about the inheritance. He set up a trust fund in my name, separate from his main assets, and told me he wants to make sure I'll be safe no matter what happens. I told him I wasn't after the money, that I didn't go through all this because of it. But he insisted. I think it's his way of making things right. He's also planning to sell the house. Too many bad memories. It makes me sad. It was my childhood home. But I understand. He needs a fresh start too. We've even been looking at smaller places together. He jokes that we could become neighbors, but we both know it's best if we live separately. I recently ran into one of Megan's friends at a store. She shot me a dirty look and muttered something about how I ruined Megan's life. I wanted to respond, to explain, but I didn't. I just walked away. Their opinions don't matter to me anymore. I know the truth, and that's enough. Work has become a good distraction. I've been taking on more projects, going above and beyond, and my boss noticed. She even hinted at a possible promotion in the near future. It feels good to be recognized, to know that everything I went through didn't break me. My dad and I are planning a weekend trip to the lake where we used to go when I was a kid, before my mom got sick. It feels like a step toward healing, an attempt to make new memories that can replace the bad ones. I've been thinking about my mom a lot lately. I wonder what she would say about all of this. How she would support me. I miss her more than ever. Last time I visited Aunt Sarah, she gave me a box of my mom's things. Old photos, letters, even her jewelry. Going through them was painful, but it helped. It's comforting to have something physical that connects me to her. I've started reconnecting with old friends too. People I lost touch with after everything fell apart. Some were happy to hear from me, others weren't. But it feels good to rebuild my circle. To have people in my life who knew me before all this. The legal case against Don and Megan is still ongoing. My dad's lawyer keeps us updated, but I try not to focus on it. They'll face the consequences. But their fate doesn't have to determine my future. These days, I think about the future more often, not just surviving the day, but actually building something. I'm even thinking about grad school again. It's a big step, but for the first time in a long while, I feel like I can do it. The bad days still come, but they're fewer now. I'm not completely healed, but I'm moving forward. I'm building a life that's no longer defined by what Dan and Megan tried to do to me. It's not the life I once imagined, but it's mine. And for the first time in a long time, I'm curious to see what comes next. Thank you to everyone who followed my story, who offered support, who believed in me. Your kindness meant more than words can express. This is my final update. It's time to close this chapter and start writing a new one. Wish me luck.